Hey everybody, welcome to Dig Talk with Krissy D. We have a great show for you tonight with Paul Neal from Katzulhu Productions, so keep listening. Hey everyone, let me introduce you to Paul Neal with Katzulhu Productions, as he's Dig Sonic's first guest ever. Woo!
Hey, thanks
Super
for having
exciting.
me. It's great to be here. Much appreciated.
Welcome. So we will be talking about your label, your awesome album coming out, and then the podcast Don't Quit Your Day Job. So, how are you? How are you today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me out. This is exciting. I'm honored to be the first guest. So I appreciate that, and hopefully you guys are successful with all of this. This is great.
Thank you. That means a lot. Yeah, I'm very excited, very happy for you to be here as well. So, I do see that you started Katzulhu as a way for free live music in Chicago. Are you able just to tell me about how you began that and everything?
Sure. So I lived in Germany for 9 years. I work for a German company as my day job. And when we moved back to the Chicago area, the suburbs area, because that's where the U.S. office was. And then I still play in a German band, and obviously that requires them to come here or me to go there. So then I thought, well, let me get some other things happening. There wasn't really a lot of places to play in the area. So I basically just started this production company called Katzulhu, which is the German word for cat, which is Katze, and the last part of Cthulhu, which is like the ancient monster from H.P. Lovecraft stuff. So I just jammed those two words together.
Cool.
And lots of people have told me that it's a dumb name because no one can ever spell it and whatever, but that's fine.
Yeah, that's what they say about my last name, but here it is.
Exactly.
So, and you said that there weren't really anywhere to play in Chicago or Germany?
So we were in the suburbs, so about 20 miles west of downtown. And of course, there's lots of places to play in Chicago, but typically you have to know someone, and it's going in and out of Chicago is a pain in the ass because of the traffic and all of that. But so I became friendly with a brewery called Miskatonic Brewing Company, which is what I'm wearing actually right now. And so I started doing shows there. And I went to a bowling alley and I said, I'll start doing shows here. I'll bring all of my gear in. I'll book everything. Just give me half the bar so I can pay the bands.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And they agreed. And so really, again, all of this comes down to me wanting to do stuff myself while also giving opportunity to other people and other bands.
That's awesome.
And so I started doing about 4 shows a month between the two venues. We always called it Katzulhu Productions, and I built a stage at the bowling alley and had all the gear there. And then my kids basically finished college, and I really like Pittsburgh. I've always loved Pittsburgh from the first time I played here, which was in 2009. I was on tour with my German band, and we played here. We played at the Smiling Moose was my first show in Pittsburgh. So I convinced my wife to move here, and we did. So I just transported Katzulhu here with me. And because I know this guy named Derek Reed who does Some Die Nameless, which is another production company that he puts on shows, like punk rock shows, I thought, well, I don't really need to do that, so why don't I just start releasing records? So that's why the label started once I got to Pittsburgh.
Well, speaking of venues, do you still keep in contact with the bowling alley and everything?
So the bowling alley, no, and especially now since there weren't any shows because of the plague. But the brewing company Miskatonic, I'm still very good friends with those guys. I actually play D&D with them,
Nice.
nerd alert, every week remotely, and I still play in bands with those guys. So there's like a battle of the bands for brewers every year in the Chicago area. So I'm in the Miskatonic band, like representing
That's awesome.
those guys. So yeah, I'm still very close with them. They have their anniversary show coming up in June, so I'm going to put together the bill for that.
Oh, that would be amazing.
And yeah.
Everything will be hopefully opening up by then.
Yeah, that's
well,
definitely
speaking of venues, I see your hat. It's the 222 Ormsby venue.
Yep.
So is it pretty much welcome to all music or?
Yeah, so it's a real DIY venue, and what happened there was I'd heard of the venue because it's like a really old school famous like punk rock place. Yeah. Like Suicide Machines and all of these bands have played there. And so I'd heard about it, and when I moved here, Dave Isod, who owns it, he had bought it like 2 years ago or 3 years ago. I saw in the paper that he was, if anyone was interested in helping out there, that they should contact him. So I did, and I said, I did all this stuff in Chicago. I would love to help out. And so then I just started helping him, and I booked shows there. And actually, my studio, I'm sitting in your guys' great studio. My studio is also there at Ormsby. I just rent one of the rooms, and I built out a studio there.
Okay, awesome.
So yeah, we do shows. Well, we were doing shows every weekend, Friday and Saturday, sometimes on Sunday afternoons. But it really could be anything. We had metal shows, we had punk shows, we had folk shows, we had everything. Yeah.
So with the pandemic, everything still, you're able to still continue and go on with that? Or?
So there's no shows at Ormsby. So one of the downsides of it being a true DIY place is that the ventilation is horrific. So if you're in there and it's hot, you are definitely breathing everyone else's air 100% of the time. So we're being safe. There's no shows until we're really sure that we can do it and be safe about it. We've done a couple of live streams on Twitch from there, which have been fun. Never the same as an actual live show, but still pretty fun. At least you get to play a little bit.
So a true punk rock venue with the heat in this, everyone's sweating around you.
That is. So we had the Jasons play there from West Virginia. They're pretty awesome. They all wear hockey masks and stuff, and
that's awesome.
They're a great punk rock band. We had them late summer of 2019, and it was packed, and it was so hot in there. That going into that room after you went outside for a break felt like going into a sauna. It was.
Oh no!
It was.
Smell.
I mean, but exactly the smell for sure, and just like the moist air, horrible moist air. But I mean, it was a punk rock show. It was great.
Definitely a good time. So with any live action going on, or what kind of struggles do you see or face?
So for me personally, not a lot. One thing that we did was we're releasing the vinyl, which we'll talk about, I think. But for me, for the label, I think I have 3 records coming out this year, maybe 4 already. So I've been busy like on that side because lots of bands are recording and are putting out stuff. And the shows, like I said, Ormsby doesn't rely on, it's not a bar or anything. So if we don't put on shows, we don't put on shows. No one's losing any money, really. The unfortunate thing, of course, is like I live on the south side, the Rec's closed, and all these places are closed. Howlers, rest in peace, all that stuff, which is all pretty rough for like the scene. A venue like the Rec's, I'm 100% sure someone will buy it and
I want to buy
bring
it.
Back. Yeah. I think we should all pool our money and buy it.
I would. Anything.
That's a great idea. But yeah, so that's the hard part. And then, everybody's dying for shows to come back. So we'll see.
Kidding. It's been long. I think everyone just craves live music. It's the best.
Yeah.
So I have checked out a couple of your artists, like I said earlier when you and I were just talking, Murder for Girls and also Radar. They seem pretty awesome. Are there any other cool venues that they'll be playing, or any bands that you have on your label other than your 222 Ormsby coming up, since the pandemic's kind of getting a little hopefully better? Yeah,
so Murder for Girls is not on the label. They're just on the comp, which is great. I mean, they're awesome, and I'm happy to have them on the comp. Radar is on the label. They're a Chicago-based band. One of my favorite bands. I think they're really, really good. What's terrible about them or their situation is they got the masters for their newest record on the day the like the day everything closed, like a year ago, like March. They got their masters and were ready to go. And they had just opened for like Local H and done some bigger shows, Riot Fest shows in the Chicago area, and everything went to hell. So, I mean, that's really rough for them because I think the record is really good. But if they can't play to promote the record. I sold a bunch of copies, when it first came out, but now it's really hard to keep a band like that in the public's eye because everybody's releasing music because you can't do anything else. So once shows start up again, I think that will be better for them. Inco Fido, a Pittsburgh band, we just announced that we're going to release their next record. So that's going to come out on vinyl in a couple of months, and I'm really excited about that. I like them a lot.
Yeah.
So that was great. I met Chuck. Chuck came up to me. He happened to be at when my German band Opening the Void, when we were touring one year. He saw us, and then when I moved here, he just came up to me at Ormsby one day and said, "Hey, I saw your band here, whatever." And then we became friends from that. So that was also pretty cool, yeah.
And you said that you're working with the 70s kind of rock with him as well.
Yeah. So the very last song on the record is our band called Shantuck, which is really just me and Chuck and whoever else I ask. And the idea was I wanted to do a non-punk rock bunch of songs, so I did, and I gave him to Chuck, and then he wrote lyrics and sang on them, and he's a great singer, and those songs turned out. So one of them, the first one, will be on Seclusion Songs Volume 2, which I'm pretty excited about, and that's one of the ones I gave you to play on the show.
Yeah, we'll listen to it shortly.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So for your podcast, Don't Quit Your Day Job, you have some really interesting guests. So how did you get that started?
Well, I still take guitar lessons. I hadn't taken guitar lessons for a really long time, 20 years. And then my old high school buddy, who I happened to catch up with when I moved back to the U.S., he moved to L.A. in 87 to be a rock star.
Yeah.
He moved out with his band. And then, of course, I lost touch with him. When I moved back, I went out to L.A. I told him I was coming, and we hooked up. And then I started doing guitar lessons again. So I take a lesson a week from him via Skype. And often we would spend half an hour of my lesson just talking about all of these things that he's done.
That's awesome.
And so I thought, hey, this is all great stuff, and I'll just turn it into a podcast. So that's what happened. So he's been the primary guest, and now I've had some other really good guests, like his bandmate Lauren Molinaire from Little Caesar. I just interviewed this guy, Jacob Brown. He'll be coming up. He's in Germany. He owns a studio in Germany, and he plays in a pretty successful, like a German cover band there. So I have lots of stuff planned. So hopefully you guys can return the favor, and once you're up and running, come on my show.
Oh, definitely.
And I think that would also be fun.
Yeah, definitely. I listened to your episode earlier with, you mentioned Lauren Molinaire.
Yeah.
So it did sound pretty fun, especially him meeting and opening for Kiss. Are there any cool other upcoming guests that you would like to share?
So I have, like I said, this guy, Jacob Brown. So I know Jacob because my band in Germany, our first record, we contacted him and he came to our rehearsal space and recorded us. And that was our first record, like in the early 2000s or maybe mid 2000s. I can't remember now. And subsequently, every record that band has released, Opening the Void, has been with Jacob at his studio. And so he's kind of like, I can't imagine releasing a record from that band without him. He's like, you just,
like a member,
you just get really tight with his ideas and stuff. And so I have him coming up. I'm going to interview, hopefully a bass player that I know that lives that's Italian, lives in Italy, who played with this crazy guy named Adam Baum. He toured all over Europe in the mid 2000s, and I'm sure they're just like crazy stories, because we opened for him once. And just as an aside, we were backstage. This was in Austria at a relatively big venue, and we're all hanging out backstage getting ready for the show. And Adam is just sort of shuffling around, like he said his back hurt and whatever, and he's just like shuffling around, just sort of being, I don't know, like old guy stuff, I guess. And then he says to one of his guys, I think I need the doctor. And so 40 minutes later, Adam is feeling good and is jumping around the backstage. And then we do the show, and it was amazing. So I don't know what the doctor gave him, but something that definitely helped him. So I'm sure there are tons of stories like that.
I need to meet that doctor.
Yeah. So stuff like that I think is really fun. And even if you're not a super successful guy like my buddy Mark or Lauren, if you play shows or you run a studio, everybody has like funny and interesting stories that other people want to hear. So I think you guys starting the podcast and me doing one, and there's plenty of space for everybody to tell their story, I think.
Definitely. There's always something to talk about.
Yep.
New crazy antics going on.
Yeah, absolutely.
If it's fair, do you happen to have a favorite guest that you've spoken with already?
Well, I would have to say Mark, mostly because he really a high school friend. I remember we've talked about it on the podcast, sitting in my bedroom and trying to write songs and stuff when we were in high school, which just seems so silly now, but that's what we were doing at the time. So Mark, for sure. And he's had such a long and varied career doing hair metal stuff and playing blues and, sharing the stage with Billy Gibbons from ZZ Top and playing with Matt Sorum and just all this stuff that he's done. So I would say he's been my favorite, but who knows? I'd like to get Nathan Gray from Boy Sets Fire on the show. I did a show in Pittsburgh. My first sort of bigger thing with Katzulhu, I called it Katzulhu Fest. We did it at Smalls in Pittsburgh. That was even before I moved here. And I booked Nathan Gray because I love Boy Sets Fire. They were actually really big in Germany, not as big in the U.S. But I booked him mostly because I wanted to meet him. Nice. And then I brought all my stuff, all my records and stuff, and I warned him that he was going to have to sign everything. and he was totally cool. He was great. He actually signed my arm, and then I had that tattooed on. So.
Oh, that's awesome.
So that's real nerd fanboy stuff. But yes, I did it.
Hey, I would do the same thing. Don't worry. So let's talk about your album that you've been working on.
Sure.
Any specific bands that you really enjoyed or continue working with?
So it was all great. The idea for the first Seclusion songs and the one that's coming out, Seclusion Songs Volume 2, the idea is that the bands recorded the music or at least wrote the music during the pandemic. So really after the shutdown. And the other thing was that the music should be unreleased. And then once everybody gets the vinyl, then everything gets revealed. And the bands have been really into it. I had no problem getting bands who wanted to participate in both versions. And in the second volume, the one that's coming out, I just approved the test pressings a few weeks ago, so it should be just a couple of more weeks till it's ready. I really went after other bands that perhaps I didn't know as well, like Middle Finger, Justin Palinsar, who owns In the Blood Tattoo, where I actually go to get my tattoos.
That's the only place I go.
Oh yeah, okay. So Justin is the owner there, and that's
He did my second tattoo.
Yeah, great. So Middle Finger is his band, and that's one of the songs that I brought for you guys to play because I think it's really good. That starts side 2. So cool. And we were going to do a show with him with my Pittsburgh-based band called the Richard Move in April. And, of course, April last year, and everything didn't work. And then, so, of course, Murder for Girls, who I love. There's several Chicago-based performers. Faith, Zach Porlier, who I really like. He writes, like, sort of folky, depressing songs. Hey, Zach, all of your songs are depressing. But they're really, really good. And this guy, Joe Sconey, who lives in Chicago, wrote a really interesting sort of jazzy song, which I'm excited for people to hear. And then the other song that I brought was Anti-Psychotics, who are a band from Ford City, who I also really, really like a lot. I've played with them a few times. And they're like more traditional punk rock. The songs are really good, I think, and the lyrics are great. Eric's a good guy. And then my 70s thing I think I brought as well for it's called Shantuck, the one with me and Chuck. But everybody on the record is really good. And everybody on the first record is really good. I make the digital files free on my website, Katzulhu.com.
I listen to them all day.
Yeah, that's great. Just because I don't think anybody's going to buy digital files anymore. It's just not a thing because of Spotify and streaming and whatever. So great. Buy the vinyl. Help support the bands because the bands do get the money from the vinyl. And and then any support you can give to the bands afterwards, if you dig the songs, then that's also great.
And some merch.
Yep.
Always.
Yep. Yeah, it's a really good way to support bands that you like or any, your studio or whatever is merch for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I think 90% of my wardrobe is band tees. That's all I ever do.
I mean, there's nothing better really, right?
Exactly. They're comfortable, baggy. I can put it up, whatever. I love it. So I did save your, so the song is Skulls for the Skull Throne. I did save that for last.
Okay.
But I would like to play Kamikaze by Middle Finger.
Sure. Yeah, that's great. It's
So
Justin's
we'll be
song.
taking a listen now.
Great.
Dropping bombs from the sky, we can't stop them, but we try. They are losing, this is true, it is true, we can't lose. Kamikaze, take a stand, kamikaze, lend a hand. Kamikaze, just for fun, kamikaze, on the run. Kamikaze, it's a trend, kamikaze, in the end. Kamikaze, fuck your mom, kamikaze, at the prom. Round two, we're fueled up, ready to go. Where the stops, no one knows. Flying through the dark of night, against the red we must unite. Fighting a war of our own, action cast without a stone. Learn the lessons from our past, build a future that will last. Kamikaze, take a stand, kamikaze, lend a hand. Kamikaze, just for fun, kamikaze, on the run. Kamikaze, it's a trend, kamikaze, in the end. Kamikaze, fuck your mom, kamikaze, at the prom.
Why the suicide plane fails 99 times out of 100?
1, 2, 3, 4, I love the Marine Corps, kamikaze. Kamikaze, take a stand, kamikaze, lend a hand. Kamikaze, just for fun, kamikaze, on the run. Kamikaze, it's a trend, kamikaze, in the end. Kamikaze, fuck your mom, kamikaze, at the prom. Kamikaze. 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 Kamikaze.
That was awesome. Yeah, definitely miss shows. Wouldn't mind being in the front there.
The next time you go in to get a tattoo from Justin, you can say that you heard the song before it was released.
Yeah, I'm special. I'll tell him. I see Mike, who does.
Yeah.
I have, like, my whole leg is almost done. So, I love going there. I recommend that place. It's my favorite.
Yeah,
place
for
there.
sure. Mike does all my work now as well, and he's gonna come and spray paint tag my studio
That
room.
is so cool.
Yeah, so
That would be so cool. We need to get on that. But yeah, so I just want to go into the next one. I'm very excited about this one too. So it's Fix Myself by Anti-Psychotics. So how did you come to work with bands on this album, and pretty much what's going to be different for the next one?
So I'm releasing. This is a cooperation with Derek from Some Die Nameless. So one of the ideas is he can't put on any shows, so let's do this together and try to get some publicity for his production company so that people don't just forget about it. So especially for the first one, a lot of the bands we sort of sourced together. For the second one, I just went on Facebook and I said, does anybody want to be on the second one? And I got a bunch of responses, and we went that way. And the third one, I don't know. So it really depends on what might happen next. I think what I'd like to do is have a live show, like a bigger live show with a bunch of the bands that are on both versions of the comp, and do something like that because I think it would be fun, and then maybe try to get a bigger headliner or something. I don't know. But that would be the idea. And then as we get to the end of the year, maybe I'll think about another comp, but I'm not sure. Maybe, I don't know, maybe we can collab with Dig Sonic or something and do something that way.
Is there any band that you are really wanting to eventually work with?
Off the top of my head, I've been able to work with the bands that I've really wanted to, especially with the Live from 222 Ormsby series, which is we bring bands in, we record their entire live set in front of people, and then release those on really short run vinyl, so 50 pieces. And they sell out really quickly. So I've gotten to do the Crooked Cobras. They did the first one, and it was really important for me for them to do the first one. One, because I know them and like them a lot, but also because I truly believe they are one of the tightest bands in Pittsburgh. And so I knew that they would kill it, and then I would only have to worry about the technical side. I wouldn't have to worry about the performance side. Mm-hmm. And then for number 2, we did Grey Walker, which is an awesome metal band. Sykes, Brian Howe, who has a podcast and does a bunch of stuff in Pittsburgh. I had his band on because I wanted to do a metal band, and they're really good. And then, we had the third one was going to be Inco Fido, and the fourth one was going to be, who was it going to be now? No, I can't remember. Rocky Dennis Face, who's also on comp number 2. They were going to also do it, and then, we canceled everything because of the plague.
I think due to COVID, though, a lot of bands had so much time to be creative, and I think once venues and everything go back to being open, we're just going to be exploded with awesome sounds.
And I'm hopeful that, everybody says right now that they're going to go to shows and everybody's going to go to shows, and I hope it doesn't fall back to, yeah, sorry, bro, I had to get up early the next morning and I couldn't make your show, So there's a lot of that, partly because there's so many venues in Pittsburgh, right? There's so many choices, or there were. Yeah. So hopefully people are eager enough, and that sort of sticks around and people go to shows. So like, again, Derek from Some Die Nameless, he's doing his Project 1996 right now, where he's really focused on that year and songs that came out. So bands are contributing covers of songs that came out in 96.
Oh, that's really cool.
And he's releasing those like every month,
awesome.
which is pretty great. Yeah.
That'd be really cool. I think I was 3, but still I like music. Now I know you said you like Pittsburgh a lot, and that's why you moved from Chicago.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you're looking to expand with your label? Maybe move in. You said a couple of the bands were like the Jasons were from West Virginia that you had previously been with or met. Anything else that you want to move around?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's really important to sort of be in the moment and see what's happening. I only want to work with bands that I really like. So that's important. So it's really important for me to go to shows, and doing shows at Ormsby and just being there all the time really helps, because I see so many bands like every week. So that helps me a lot in deciding who I might work with next. But I'm willing to do anything. In Chicago, I had a band with a rapper, so I would do all the music, and then he would rap over it. And so I something maybe like that again would be fun to do. There's no shortage of rap artists in Pittsburgh as well, so something like that might be fun. But who knows? I mean, we can see.
So you switching with like rap, and then so our next song, there's a little bit of the '70s beach rock feel to it. How do you do that switch, and are you comfortable with that? How does that work out?
Yeah, it's just sometimes it has to do with like what I'm into at the moment. So for a while there, I got really into like jazz chords and just doing jazz voicings, and then applying that sort of stuff to the rock context. And that's how this sort of California thing came about. And really, I have a lot of bands. You know, I'm in a lot of bands. I do a lot of stuff. So it's great. I know for like Doping the Void, it's punk rock with a trumpet. I'm the singer. You know, it's straight ahead. I know I can do that always. And so knowing that I always have that outlet gives me the chance to do do whatever else I want to do.
That's awesome.
Because I'm not stuck with one band and I have to try to steer that band in 1,000 different directions. I can just do whatever next project is. And I'm a big believer in do the thing, record it, play a show, move on to the next thing. I'm not the guy that thinks everything needs to be perfect because then nothing happens.
True, and you're doing what you like, so
Yeah.
that's even better. So I am really excited. We will be listening to Skulls for the Skull Throne by Shantuck. That was amazing. Like I said, I was super excited to listen to that again.
Thank you very much.
That's something I could just be in the sunshine and windows down and just jam out. I think that was awesome.
Great.
So you did mention that on your site there's free downloads. Do you want to plug in any of your info?
Sure. It's Katzulhu.com is the webpage. You can also find it on Facebook. But if you go to Katzulhu.com, you can buy the vinyl. And if you like any of the songs, all of the digital files are free. So I think it's important to get the music, whatever we're releasing, out to people who want it and want to listen to it. More ears is better than fewer ears. But the vinyl's all listed on the page. Everything is free shipping. Most of it is about $15 for a record. I'm all out of merch right now, which is, I guess, a good problem to have. I gotta start ordering more of that. Don't Quit Your Day Job is on all of the normal podcast locations. There's actually, I didn't realize this when I put it out for the first time, but there are several Don't Quit Your Day Jobs. Mine is the best one, of course.
Of course.
It's the only one about music. And Don't is in parentheses. There's a cassette tape on the cover. made by Aaron Zeman from Crooked Cobras. He does 90% of all of the art for Katzulhu. He's really good. I can strongly recommend him. Also, all of that stuff is on Facebook, and I have an Instagram feed that my daughter runs for me because that seems like a young person's game, and that's also just at Katzulhu, and so we post stuff there about the label and bands and pictures of shows and what have you. So if anybody's interested in working with me, then hit me up and we'll figure out what to do next.
Definitely, yeah. And then whenever you guys get shows going, I'll be there.
Yeah, right on. And we could do some, for you guys, as you guys get more set with what you're doing, we can do remote stuff from Ormsby. We could set up a show if you guys want to, host a thing for bands that are on your label or whatever.
Definitely,
we can do all of that.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah.
That'd be really great. Well, I really want to thank you for joining us today. Like I said, this was my first, and it was perfect. I couldn't ask for anything better.
Thank you very much for having me, and I look forward. It was great to meet you guys in person, face to face, and hopefully we can work together here in the future, especially as we get shows going. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. So everyone be sure to check out Katzulhu Productions, Paul's podcast, and everything else that's amazing that he's doing.